Hello everybody out there in YouTube land, and I'm Justin from Playing Board Games, and today I have a new list for all of you about Hemlock Vale. It's still Hemlock Vale season. I haven't gotten my box yet. Travis hasn't gotten his box yet. I don't know if Bryn's getting a box. But we haven't really played too much with these cards, so I'm still kind of in the exploratory phase. I've been poking at a few of them. But I have 5 cards that I think are going to be game changers going forward. What's a game changer? Well, I guess exactly as it says on the tin, it changes the game. That means that maybe new strategies open, old strategies that were stronger, that were kind of weaker get a bit stronger. Alternatively, maybe it boosts certain strategies to be yet even more that consistent, right? Like even like already consistent strategies become even more consistent. A game changer is kind of just something that is going to alter the card pool of the game in a positive way. It doesn't need to be monumental, I think, even though like game changer kind of implies that, you know, the game is changing. I think that small changes are still considered to be game changers. And then also as well with some of them on this list as well, I think that might potentially be new staples for a class or multiple classes that just open up things completely. So why don't we dive in with our first one on the list, which is Long Shot. So this is a practice skill in the Survivor class. You may commit Long Shot to a fight or evasion test against an enemy at your location or connecting location. If this test is successful, deal 1 damage to that enemy. This is a card that I've actually been trying out in a variety of Survivor decks. I love Survivors. I love Survivor Goons, even though Survivor weapons aren't exactly as consistent as Rogue and Guardian weapons, nor should they be. Long Shot is very nice in the majority of Survivor Goon packages in terms of just making yourself more consistent. A lot of survivors who don't have access to something like Vicious Blow, for example, Tommy Muldoon and Will York just innately have access to Vicious Blow as part of their card pool, and you never really feel like they, I guess ARKHAM Pete is another one, you never really feel like they are missing that extra piece of damage because they have that Vicious Blow to make certain boss enemies or big enemies go down even easier. Now, however, survivors have a brand new card in their pool from Hemlock Vale that is giving them a quote-unquote Vicious Blow. Long Shot does have a downside, but it also has a lot of upside. So the downside for Long Shot is actually pretty... It's obvious, and it doesn't seem that bad, but it is going to be one of those things that you are going to kind of miss. Long Shot doesn't commit for any icons, so you don't actually get an increase. Vicious Blow increases your fist by 1 when you're committing to a combat test. However, Long Shot has some positives. It can be used for when someone it doesn't need to be you, is fighting or evading an enemy at your location or connecting location. The evasion thing is actually kind of sick. That's where this card really cooks, in my opinion. Yes, it is really nice as a survivor to get access to a Vicious Blow and be able to use that to kill enemies. However, if you are a survivor, like let's say like a Rita or, I don't know, even a Stella, right? Or you are just like a survivor with a rogue on your team. Evasion actions happen just occasionally, and being able to poke down an enemy while you're doing that, even when you're not at the location, is really nice. I think that this is a card that could just generally be run in like every flex survivor until the end of time. I definitely think with Long Shot we are looking at a new staple here. I don't think it's gonna like alter the course of survivor history from here on out in terms of like changing the class completely. But what I do think it does is that it is a card that is going to just pop off and be easy to put in a lot of Survivor decks going forward. And it's great that it has some amazing art, some really good art to go with it. So I'm making this video to get my game changers out there, but also to look back in like a year and see how close I was with my predictions. But I predict that Long Shot is going to be seen in a lot of decks going forward. It's going to be a new Survivor staple. Even for not fighters. I do think that. I think even at level 0, if you're a Clover, this could be in your deck, and you won't regret it. You'll upgrade out of it, but you won't regret it. All right. On to number 2, we have Dirty Deeds. This is a 1 cost, 3 experience rogue event. It's a favor, double, and illicit. As additional cost to play Dirty Deeds, you have to spend an action. Search your deck for an illicit asset and play it, paying its cost. Then, you may resolve an action or lightning bolt ability on that asset, ignoring all costs, including its action cost, if any. Playing this card does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So, this card, here, let me get an example on screen as well. Let me just get like a big-ass rogue weapon on here. So, what I think that this card is going to do, going forward for this game, is it's going to give an absolute insane amount of consistency to rogue fighters. Yes, it's so tiny. The card's so tiny here, but just bear with me. I think that this card is going to give an absolute insane amount of consistency to rogue fighters going forward, especially when they are using the big weapons. This is one of the few double cards. I think that, like, the majority of the double cards in Hemlock Vale are playable. I think they all have, like, their purpose and they all have their function, and they're all, I mean, except for the Mystic one, which allows you to, you know, look at the top cards in the counter deck. For the most part, I think the double cards are playable and have a home. Dirty Deeds feels like one of the ones that I think is easiest to see that double value out of it, because it gives you 2 actions. It lets you play a gun and fire the gun. So that is just like baseline what this card does for you. What this also does is it searches your deck for an illicit asset, which is huge, right? There's other things you can do besides just, you know, like just this this Beretta M19 with this example here. But what this does is it allows you to find your weapons as you need them and shoot them. So, for example, what I think that this is going to do, if you are a big weapon deck, you are going to completely change how your mulligan works, right? If you see a Dirty Deeds in your opening hand, you're going to keep it and, like, get rid of any other weapons you see, searching for economy. Because then, there's no reason to, like, play that weapon to get set up. You just, like, build your economy, you get everything else set up, and then you get to the first enemy, and you're like, okay, I'm going to find my Beretta M1918 and shoot it. And yes, it takes 2 actions, you have to play it and shoot it, but you're going to kill the enemy, because, you know, that's what's going to happen. Or just like you find, like, a Mauser and you shoot it, and you just, like, don't have to spend the time to do otherwise. This, of course, changes as the weapons were fast. There's a lot of, you know, moving pieces to all of this. But I'm just talking, like, from a general point of this card. The other thing that this card does is you ignore all costs, which means everything before the colon after the action arrow. So, in the case of the Beretta M1918, it's the exhaust M1918 and spend 1 ammo. So you ignore its action cost, you ignore exhausting, and you don't spend an ammo. So it basically also gives you a free shot for this. These are all the things that I think there's just a lot of moving pieces in Dirty Deeds that is going to make it an absolute game changer for rogue fighters. And I think it's going to provide a lot of consistency for people to be able to shoot better as a rogue. I think also as well, if this is slight spoilers for, like, the preview for the next expansion, but there's been hints that it's Mafia themed, which means we might see Michael McGlenn, which means we're probably also gonna see Dirty Deeds go up in stock. So just keep your eyes on Dirty Deeds. I think that this card is going to perform very well going forward, because the effect on the card is just quite powerful. All right, let's go on to number 3. And what could it be? Let's find out. The masks. So I only have Wolf Mask picture here because I do think it's the best mask. And actually, like, when I say the masks, I really mostly mean Sparrow Mask and Wolf Mask. I think these are the 2 masks that are just the most generally playable in all situations. However, with that said, I do think that every mask performs well. Wolf Mask, if you don't know what the masks do, they're all 1-cost assets, they're all items, they're all charms, they're all masks, and they all have limit 1 mask per investigator. They come in with 2 offerings, and they replenish their offerings in a variety of different ways. They also give and commit for 2 stats, and you have to spend an offering, and you'd get to do it once per test. Wolf Mask, you replenish 1 offerings by engaging an enemy. You spend offerings to get fist or foot. Mouse Mask from Seeker is Book and Brain. You replenish an offering by revealing or putting a new location into play. Fox Mask, I believe, is the rogue one, which is Book and Foot, and you get it by leaving a location with an enemy. Cat Mask is Mystic, and this one actually replenishes 2 offerings, and whenever Doom is placed on a card without Doom, and that gives you Brain and Fist. And then Sparrow Mask is Brain and Foot, and you replenish an offering every time you take a damage or a horror. So Wolf Mask and Sparrow Mask, I think, are the ones that are just kind of generally the most ubiquitous in terms of their playability. There's use cases for all of them. The masks are cheap, they're efficient, they're good. I think they're less bonkers than people thought. I've been playing with all the masks and experimenting with them, and I think they're good. But apart from Wolf and Sparrow, and even with Wolf, I actually found myself, with the way I build, not necessarily needing as much. But maybe the game changer is going to be how decks are built if you can run the masks. I think that masks also will eventually settle to just one-ofs. I hate seeing the second mask. I actually hate it. I'm like, why are you here? But once again, this might just be me. However, Wolf Mask and Sparrow Mask, I think, are just really good cards. You're going to be taking damage in horror, and you're going to be engaging enemies as the goon. So with the Wolf Mask, this allows you to make fighting easier, or evading easier if you're feeling a little bit naughty. And the Sparrow Mask, which is Brain and Foot and replenish when you take damage or horror, it helps you be defensive, and every time you fail or take damage in like maybe an enemy attack, it makes the next thing less scary. So I think this is no surprise that the masks as a whole are just considered to be blanket, like, the biggest game changers in the pack, because they're just kind of like flat, right? They require very little. They're very easy to play. They're very easy to trigger. They're very easy to get their value out of them. So the masks, I think, moving forward, obviously we're going to see them in a lot of decks for the rest of Arkham's lifetime. They're good cards, and they're definite game changers. All right, next up, number 4, we have British Bulldog. This is both the level 0 and the level 2 version. So I'm going to talk about the level 2 version here just because it's the one on the screen. 3 cost, 2 experience, uses 3 ammo. It's an item, weapon, firearm, illicit, takes up the hand slot. As an action, spend 1 ammo and fight. You may use foot instead of fist for this attack, and you get +2 skill value. You get +0 skill value for the level 0 version. This attack deals +1 damage, and ignore the aloof keyword for this attack. As a reaction, after you fail a skill test while parlaying with an enemy, put British Bulldog into play from your hand. This is kind of the next and most exciting phase of the evolution of rogue firearms. In my opinion, at this point in the game, it's kind of evolved where the Guardian class is the melee class, and the rogue class is the firearm class. We actually can see that in this very set, where the weapons that the rogues got were firearms, the weapons that the Guardians got were melee weapons. They're very hyper-efficient melee weapons, but now we're starting to see the hyper-efficiency in the ranged weapons, the firearms, starting to enter into the rogue class. And boy, oh boy, is it good. So this one's a game changer because, like, in my opinion, Thieves Kit, or Thieves Tools, whatever it's called, I think it's Thieves Kit. Thieves Kit from Scarlet Keys allowed rogues to be more consistent in their ability to get clues. British Bulldog is that for gun. It is a way for the rogue class to be using their foot to be more consistent. And it's also a May, so Tony Morgan can still just shoot the British Bulldog like it's nobody's business. Of course, it also has a little reaction text where you can put into play if you fail a parlay, but we ain't concerning ourselves with that. This card is still entirely playable if you just play it. Like, if you just spend 3 resources in an action to put it into play, that's fantastic. If you had parlay skills, you can, like, parlay tests that you could fail and use in other ways. Like, it gets gravy on top of that. But what this does is that this allows rogues to be more consistent in their ability to kill enemies. And like someone like Winifred Havemuck is going to go to the frickin' moon with British Bulldog. I mean, I think most rogues will be. Skids O'Toole loves this card as well. Like, this is like, I think Skids is one of the investigators who I think is eating the most this expansion. He got a lot of big improvements, and I think that we're going to see a noted... I know a lot of people said they've been there for years, but I think that as a whole, I think Skids O'Toole is going to get a lot of juice in this expansion, and a lot of people are going to be like, wait a minute, is Skids O'Toole actually really good now? And I don't think so, but I think he's going to get a lot better, which is super sweet. All right, my last game changer of the set. These are really in like no specific order. They're just kind of like the order in which I put them in here and the order I wanted to talk about them in. But we have number 5. Level 2, Olive McBride. So, 2 experience, 2 cost. She's tried everything once. She takes up the ally slot. She's an ally and a witch. As a reaction, when you reveal a chaos token, exhaust Olive McBride. Reveal 4 chaos tokens instead of 1. Choose 2 of those tokens to resolve and ignore the rest. So, this reads like a pretty minor upgrade from level 0 Olive, who, let me just get on the screen for you so you can see the differences between them. So, the level 0, you reveal 3 still, and you choose 2 to revolve. So you reveal 3 instead of 4, and you choose 2 to resolve. So you still are going to be choosing 2 of your tokens, but you're only going to be you reveal 3, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my screens back, and I had just an absolute brain fart. So let's take that again. Let's take that again. So you still are going to be choosing 2 to resolve, but revealing 3 for the level 0 to 4 for the level 2. It reads like a super small change, but it actually is really damn big. Think of it like now, instead of resolving 66% of the tokens that you reveal, you now resolve 50%. That's kind of like how it actually is. And what this does is it allows you to have a better selection of cards you want, of tokens you want to ignore. Because if you reveal 3 tokens and 2 of them are bad, you have to take one of the bad ones on top of one of the good ones, right? However, if you reveal 4 tokens and 2 of them are bad, you now get to ignore 2 of those tokens and just choose the positive ones, or like the ones that are like a 0 and a -1. However, I think the biggest impact that Olive McBride is going to bring to the game in a way that is just going to like absolutely change a lot of Mystic builds and also Blessed and Cursed builds is that her ability to find the token that you want is going to go to the moon. I'm not going to talk about Jim Culver here. I'm not going to talk about Jim Sculver. I'm not going to bring up Jim and the ability for Olive McBride 2 to find skull tokens. I'm not gonna not bring it up though, because, you know, like, it's like one of those things. However, more realistically though, is that Olive McBride 2 is gonna pop off with things like Sixth Sense, or like, you know, finding Bless and Curse tokens, or, you know, even Wither if you want to be building around it for some reason. It's going to provide so much consistency to find the tokens that you want to find when you want to find them, and it's going to be very powerful for those effects. I don't think she is like a Mystic staple ally that you're going to just put in every deck, but if you are any sort of token manipulation deck, or Blessed or Curse, or like any sort of token fishing, Olive McBride is going to go through the roof, right? It also, kind of in a way, gives everyone access to Jacqueline's ability, Jacqueline Fine. It's not as good as Jacqueline Fine's ability, because it's, you know, it's just not. That's how it works, right? But it's very close, and it's going to feel very similar when you are playing with it. And it's going to you're going to be surprised the number of times that Olive McBride is going to go to the absolute moon for you, and you're going to be like, this ally is super consistent and super great at getting me where I need to go. Again, just going back to the 3v4, You draw 2 bad tokens. You have to resolve one of them with level 0. You draw 2 bad tokens with a level 2. You don't have to resolve any of them. And that is a very powerful change. Well, those are the cards that I personally think are going to be 5 game changers from Hemlock Vale. We'll see if I'm right in a year. See if anything moved the needle. But I would love to know in the comments what you think are some game changers from the Hemlock Vale box. And I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one. And as always, the GGs.